What's happening, everybody? Boy Big Brandoh, and welcome to another episode of Bullshitting with Brandoh. Now, if you watch any of the other ones, or if you've listened to any of the other ones, you'll understand where we're at and how this thing works. So I'm pretty much just telling you guys my story and just a bunch of the other mistakes that I've made in the past, hopefully so you guys don't make none yourself, you know what I mean? So at this time in my own, not even professional career, but just basically me hustling, me trying to make some t-shirts, me trying to get some money any way I can. I'm out here just making t-shirts for a bunch of other people, a lot of rappers, a lot of up-and-coming local rappers, I should say. And then also, you know, just a lot of merch for different people that have different hustles or whatever it is. So whether it's, you know, the beat maker or the rapper or the artist or whatever it is, R&B groups, all that stuff. I'm trying to sell them CD inserts with a bunch of t-shirts, maybe 24 to 48 t-shirts that they can use for merch or throw out for free to the crowd or just have the crowd wear so it looks like they're really doing it in the video or the pictures, whatever it is. I'm just trying to sell them on everything. In the meantime of doing this, you know, I'm making decent money. I'm screen printing, I'm making these t-shirts, but I'm still trying to think of brands for myself. And at this time, it's pretty hard because focus on brand names. You know, I'm trying to think of these crazy brand names and I'm trying to do my thing. I'm trying to figure a lot of shit out, but I'm also not worrying about the actual design. Well, not worrying about it, but I'm not putting too much focus on the actual design. I'm just thinking of brand names. And this right here is a long process. Obviously, we've all been there. We're all trying to think of a clever, cool brand name. And sometimes those brand names aren't necessarily the big seller for us. You know what I mean? It's basically the design that's selling. So in the meantime of doing this, I'm trying to brainstorm all these brand names and I'm bouncing them off of different people. And I'm still printing for other people, but this is what's pretty much on the back burner is my own brand. I still have the dream of making my own brand. I have all the equipment to do it. So why not, you know, just put it out? The big thing that's going on right now, or not right now, but at the time, was really big print shirts, big graphics, big print, a lot of colors. People are matching their shirts to their shoes with their hats. It's a crazy time for fashion or streetwear in general. So a big brand that was out at the time was called Miskeen. They were doing hand-painted t-shirts, and it was pretty much like a really big t-shirt with, you know, just graphics all over the place. And they I think their logo was a hand, and it was hand-painted. This thing right here was cool. Everybody was doing it. Everybody liked it. You've seen some of your big, you know, big name rappers wearing them. So a lot of people were falling into this trend of just big graphics, big all over print type stuff. And I was lost. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of brand names and I'm trying to think of stuff, but I'm letting a lot of what's popular influence me. You know what I mean? So it falls into just falling into trends and, you know, riding the wave and not necessarily catching the wave at the right time, but seeing what's going on, seeing what people are buying into, and then that influences me on my design process, on what I'm creating and stuff like this. I'm trying to mimic what's popular because I'm seeing people making money off of it. You know what I mean? So for myself, everything's moving, right? I'm screen printing t-shirts. I'm trying to sell people on these package deals of, hey, let me do your CD inserts. Let me make some t-shirts for you. I'll create the logo for you. And a lot of my designs started out small and they're just getting bigger, bigger, bigger. Now they're taking up the whole t-shirt. I'm filling up a screen and I'm just pretty much printing really crazy graphics. And for the time, it does good. But it's not going to last. You know what I mean? But I didn't understand that. So I'm printing these t-shirts and I'm doing it, and boom, the big ball drops of nobody's really wearing t-shirts because everybody's wearing jerseys. Throwback jerseys are a huge thing. People are into them. People are matching their jersey with their hat, with their shoes now. Nobody's really wearing t-shirts. If they are wearing t-shirts, it's like a 3X, 2X tall white t-shirt underneath their jersey because everybody's wearing throwbacks. You know what I mean? And that was like a really big turning point for myself because I'm not making any money. There's no business now. I can't sell rappers these package deals no more. I mean, they still want CD inserts, but they're not wanting their own merch. They don't want, you know, t-shirts. They're not wearing t-shirts anymore because everybody's wearing jerseys. If you remember this time, you understood what was going on. It was like everybody was into like velour sweatsuits, and then they just transitioned into jerseys. That was the popular thing. And I know this was popular across the board, everywhere from California to New York, everywhere in between. Everybody was into throwback jerseys. And I know, you know, everybody knows that was just the thing. It was the wave. You know what I mean? That was the trend at the time. And for business, for myself, screen printing, I wasn't making no money, like whatsoever. I could not catch a deal. I couldn't catch a break with anybody. I just couldn't even print for myself because I was wearing jerseys too. You know what I mean? Like, it was a bad situation for business, period. So what I started doing was, obviously I had to continue the hustle. I had to keep making money. So what I did was I went and I sourced old Champion jerseys, the screen printed jerseys. Champion used to make them, and they were pretty much easy to come by at this time because I could, well, not easy to come by, but they were dead stock in a lot of these old sports stores because nobody was buying them, and they just had them, you know, packaged up, bagged up. Nobody was buying old shit at the time. So I found this place, and it was called All American Sports or All American Sportswear, something like that. And it was in downtown LA, and they were pretty much, they sold hats. They sold a lot of sports stuff like bobbleheads and crazy shit. Anything to do with sports, they sold there. They had a huge, fucking, it was like a room full of just boxes of old Champion jerseys. So they had a few on the floor, and then I just said, hey, do you got any more of these? They said, yeah. How many do you need? And I was just like, what if I just bought 50 of them? You know, if I wanted 50 random sizes, players, teams, whatever, what can you do for me? And they were like, oh, you know, it'll be somewhere around like five. I mean, if you bought 50, you got them for $10. So I was like, well, what if I bought, I don't know, 100 of them? He was like, I could do them for $7 each. That'll be my lowest. You're helping me get this shit out of here. I don't know what the hell you're going to do with these old jerseys. I said, I'll take them off your hands. So what I did was I sourced these old Champion jerseys, and you see them now. Like, people are going to these flea markets and thrift stores, and they're paying a shitload of money for these jerseys nowadays. Like, today's time, 2019, people are paying hundreds, like, I want to say $100 to $135, depending on the player, for these old Champion jerseys. And at the time, this is early 2000s, I bought 100 of them, $7 each, so $700, and he let me handpick the sizes, handpick the players, teams, all of that. And it was just, I spent hours in there going through all of them, and I didn't even do all of them. I bought all basketball jerseys the first time that I was in there. I just went, bought all these basketball jerseys. I bought popular teams. Obviously, I was going for the Jordans. And what was crazy was there's a ton of the Jordan jerseys that had the number 45 on them. I believe it was the white and red ones, and red and black. I believe those were the colorways of the 45 jerseys. And the dude was like, why do you want those? Jordan's number 23. I bought all the 45s. I bought the 23s. I bought Pippen. I bought a lot of Pippins. Bought a ton of old Laker jerseys. Just anything I thought was going to be popular and cool. And I bought them up. So I bring these back to where I live. And now I have 100 jerseys that I got to move. But I know I could move them because it's the popular thing. You know what I mean? So obviously I'm out here and I'm selling them. And I was curious on what to price them at. You know what I mean? Because people are buying other jerseys for like $300, $400 at the time. And I have these old Champion jerseys of just old players. Not necessarily really old, but they were old enough that, you know, it was just nostalgia. That's what you were selling on. So I was selling a lot of these old Jordan jerseys, and I think I had like old Laker jerseys, shit like that. What I was doing was I was selling them for, I think, like $40 or something like that. So my profit to myself was like, I don't know, $33 because I'm buying them for $7 a piece. So I'm making $33, which is decent profit on what I was doing. And they sold fast. Like within not even a week, they sold. So I went back because dude had boxes of them. I said, man, what else you got? So he let me go through all these boxes, and I was just Champion jerseys, brand new. Print still good. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, they're the screen printed jerseys. It was like a light mesh. They're screen printed. They sold them everywhere. You see them now, but now the print's all cracked up and kind of fucked up, and people are paying $100, $135 for these things. But I sourced these things early on, like early 2000s is when I went over there and I just bought a shitload of them, because it was crazy, because not a lot of people were into them. People were into them, but they weren't into them how they are now. You know what I mean? So I went back, same thing. I brought $700. Boom. Let me go in the back, and I spent hours just going through them. I was collecting data of everybody asking me, hey, do you have this player? Do you have this team? Do you have this size? Do you have anything in this size? Anything in this team? So I just went back and started like bringing back tons of stuff. I was going back weekly. And the more I went over there, the more the guy was cool. Like, he was like, oh shit, here you go. Take these. Or once I got there, he was like, you want more jerseys? Yeah. So he already had boxes already laid out, and he was pulling them off the shelves for me. He had them lined up, and it became a weekly thing for me to go down there, pick up jerseys, and then bring them back and selling them. And I was just doing them cash on hand, no online store at the time, none of that shit. It's just selling to people out in public. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, I got jerseys. I became the jersey guy. People just hit me up, and I'm slinging jerseys, brand new champion jerseys at that, for $40, and I'm making a killing. Like, I was doing it. And then the next time I go over there, shit was trippy, because when he seen me come in, he was like, I got something for you. I don't know if you're gonna be interested in it. And so I said, shit, fuck it, what is it? So he was like, I got these shoes. They're old. I don't know if you're gonna want them. I don't know if they're popular, whatever. And it was an older Asian dude. I don't know if he was Korean or whatever, but he was just an older Asian guy. And he was like, I don't know if you could do anything with them, but if you want them, I'll give them to you for $10 a pair. Check it out. So brings me to the back. It's the old ass Fila Grant Hills, like that had that outline around the shoe. It was white with like I think it was navy blue. Old shoe, but very, very popular around the world. If you're a Grant Hill fan, or if you're just a fan of sneakers, you remember that shoe. Brand fucking new. This is early 2000s. This shoe came out in the 90s. Everybody knew of it. Everybody knew who Grant Hill was. It was a popular shoe, and he was trying to give me a box of these things at $10 a piece. I said, fuck it, I'll take these shits. So I got one case, and I think the case had 12 of them in there. Brought them back, and I was like, man, I don't know what to price these at. I think I priced them at like $40-50. Made $30, $40 profit, whatever it was. I can't remember what I sold them for, but it worked. The hard thing with that was sizing. I bought a case, and it was cool, but it was random sizing. I wasn't thinking about how am I going to make the money back, or how am I going to sell all these sizes. So it was more so of having it in my trunk saying, hey, I got these shoes too. You looking for these? At the time, sneakers are fucking popular. I mean, they still are, but back then it was still on the kind of the climbing rise of what it is today. And I was heavy into sneakers, so I knew what it was. And selling them wasn't that hard for me to do. So it was cool. I was buying Grant Hills. I was doing this shit. And after I had got those, a lot of people started asking me for other shoes. Like, hey, do you got these? Do you got... Obviously, I don't got a plug on that kind of stuff. It was just a fluke thing that the dude threw at me because I was going in there so much buying these jerseys. He knew I was just into buying old shit. And it went from those old jerseys to the Grant Hills to old starter jackets to old Majestic jackets. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like really old brands, but like some of the sports jackets were made by Majestic. Some of them made by Starter. He had all that stuff, and I was buying a lot of it. I wish I still had that plug, or I still had that stock today, because all that shit is fucking really popular now. You know what I mean? 2019, people are buying old starter jackets. People buying that old shit in these thrift stores, and I just wish I had the plug on that stuff today. But so I'm buying starter jackets. He's cutting me a really fat deal on them. I'm making decent money, but they take up more space. Jerseys fold down flat, and it's easy for me to stock the sizes and get them ready by player, by team, whatever it is. And then when I just post up, I'm telling people what I got. They ask me what sizes, and I already know what sizes, what teams, what players I have in certain sizes. Doing this, you collect the data of the popular sizes. So when I'm going and sourcing stuff, I'm just buying certain sizes. And we went at that, and by that time it was like numbered sizes. So it was like size 48 to 52, I think, or 44 to 52 or some shit like that. Can't remember off the top of my head, but each size was like a certain number, not necessarily letter size. So it was like if you wanted like extra large, I believe it was like a 48 or something like that. Can't really remember. But doing this floated me over business wise of not having to print shirts and not have to do all that shit. But it let me keep making money, and I never lost sight of the brand. I was still brainstorming brand stuff because I have a garage full of print equipment and I needed to get back to that. But it was just the trend wasn't t-shirts no more. It was basically jerseys, old jerseys, not really the new shit. It was throwback jerseys. That was the popular shit. That's what everybody wanted to wear. And I just fell into that. But my background in doing t-shirts told me, find the shit for cheap. Fuck buying the shit for $100 and trying to sell it for $200. Find the shit that's dumb cheap and then sell that shit for better profit. You know what I mean? And undercut what other people were selling shit for. That's exactly what I did. And I just folded that little business model into what I was doing. That's all it was me just saying, all right, if I could buy t-shirts for fucking $1.75 a piece, why would I buy, a 3-for-$9 t-shirt or whatever it is when I could get it for $1.75? Same thing with the jerseys was, instead of buying jerseys at $20 a piece and only buying, fucking 20 of them, why not see if I could buy a shitload of them and chop that price down? So obviously that's what I did, was got the price down to $7, which was dumb cheap. I was taking off all his dead stock. I was taking the dead stock off his hands, and I was just moving the shit. You know what I mean? So when it comes to this shit, it's just understanding your margins. You know what I mean? When you're in business to make money. You're not really in business to rip people off. You're in business to turn a profit. And that's what it is if you could, increase your margins so you could, put more money in your pocket, fuck it. Why not think of a way to do that instead of upselling somebody or just pricing your shit dumb high where you probably won't get a return customer? You know what I mean? I'm going to take a break right here for our sponsor, and then I'll get right back into it, all right? Yeah. Yo, this episode of Bullshitting with Brandoh is brought to you by the good people over at Local Roots Clothing. So if you want to rep your roots, make sure you hit up localrootsclothing.com for all your dope shit, all right? Let's get back to it. Yeah, shout out to the sponsor, Local Roots Clothing. Now, if you knew anything about back then when we're talking about throwback jerseys and what was going on at the time, all the rappers were wearing throwbacks. Everybody's doing it. But what I didn't realize what was happening was everybody wanted Michelin-esque throwbacks. That's what the rappers were wearing. That's what everybody was wearing. That's who, made this throwback jersey shit boom, was Michelin-esque. So what fucked me up was I went back to the homie over at All American. I bought, I'll just say it was like around 200 jerseys. Last time I went there was 200 jerseys, picked it up, paid the money, brought the shit back, and people started hitting me up. It was like, hey, you don't got no embroidered jerseys? I'm like, man, what the fuck you talking about? These are authentic champion jerseys. Like this is the old shit. This is legit old shit right here. This is made by Champion. It was just dead stock. You know what I mean? They're like, nah, I want the embroidered shit, because these were screen printed jerseys that Champion was putting out, and everybody wanted it embroidered because that's what Michelin-esque was doing. It was an embroidered jersey. People got really picky on the shit. For myself, it was basketball jerseys was a big thing. I was selling a shitload of them because that was popular. Football jerseys, baseball jerseys, I really wasn't getting too many of them. I was getting a few here and there of football jerseys, but not a lot. I had more basketball jerseys than football. So the business tanked. You know what I mean? The Champion jersey thing wasn't moving anymore. I mean, I still had a few people hit me up to buy, but not like it was. And it wasn't because of my product. It was because of my product, but it wasn't because my product was fucked up or was, cheap or whatever it was. It was just not what people wanted anymore. People actually wanted embroidered jerseys because it looked more authentic, it felt more authentic, and it was quote unquote real to them. A real throwback was, stitched on. It was embroidered. So when I went back to All American, I said, hey man, probably not going to be doing no more business with you guys. Everybody's into these Michelin-esque jerseys now, and obviously nobody wants these screen printed Champion ones no more. The dude at All American just said, hey, there's a dude down here that does import export shit. A lot of his stuff's coming from China. He has those embroidered jerseys, the stitched on jerseys. Go check them out. I don't know the brand, but if you go check them out, I'm pretty sure you could get a good deal. So I went down the street, Downtown LA, same thing. And not a shady storefront, but it wasn't really a storefront. I mean, he had some jerseys hanging up and they were all priced at $100. So I was like, oh fuck, man, like I don't want to pay $100 for no fucking jerseys. And there were polyester jerseys stitched on, you know, Lakers, all this shit. They had all the different teams. It was kind of cool. And the main one he had in there was Magic Johnson. So I was like, oh, that's fucking cool, you know. So I talked to the dude. I said, hey, I came from All American. He told me you got cool ass jerseys. I used to do a lot of business with them. And he's like, oh yeah, I got these right here. So I was just like, oh fuck, $100. Like, do you wholesale them or what can you do? And he was just telling me like, well, what are you trying to do? How many are you trying to buy? Because these aren't made in the States. He was like, I get them shipped in, but I get them shipped in by fucking like by the boatload, like literally the container size, like truck containers that they go on the boats. He was saying that it's a container full, not just for him, but the distribution center was pretty much taking care of a lot of people in LA at the time when these containers would come in full of jerseys. So I was just like, fuck, like I was buying 100 jerseys from him. I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm just trying to figure out you know, how this works. You have something that a lot of people want, and I'm just trying to buy in bulk pretty much. And he was just like, oh shit, well, if you want to do it, he was like, you got to buy it by the hundreds. And I was like, man, fuck that, by the hundreds, like, and you're selling them for $100. So I'm thinking he's going to hit me with like, I don't know, a $70 ticket or something like that. He was like, you buy 100, you buy them for $10 a piece, thinking I was going to fold like I didn't have 1,000 on me. And I was like, man, for real, like $10 a piece? And he was just like, yeah, if you do $10 a piece at 100, he was like, I'll have them delivered to you. So I was like, do I get to pick the sizes and teams and this and that? He said you could pick the size. I mean, you could pick the player and the team, but the sizes, you're just going to get, you know, whatever they have to offer, whether it was like size 44 to 56 or whatever it was. Like I was saying, it was numbered. He said, you know, you're going to get Magic Johnson home jersey, every size they have to offer. Magic Johnson's away jersey, every single size they have to offer. I said, all right, fuck it, let's do this shit. So I got a lot of baseball. I got like Nolan Ryan was a big seller for myself. A lot of Bo Jacksons were big sellers for myself. Ronnie Lott. I'm just trying to think of old shit. Obviously, the Magic Johnson one was a really big seller. Larry Bird. All these shits were like really big sellers. But they were bootleg jerseys. Like they had the Mitchell & S patches sewn onto them. But the jerseys they were polyester, but they weren't cut like the real ones. They didn't have the same weight. They were bootleg jerseys. That's all it was. It was just a bootleg jersey. So I said, fuck it, man. Let's do it. Obviously, I needed the money. So my champion jersey was authentic as fuck and nobody gave a shit. Like, they were like, oh, man, fuck that. It's screen printed and not embroidered. I'm not going to fuck with it. So I said, all right, let's do it. 100 jerseys, brought them back, hit up all my same connects that people were buying jerseys from me already. I said, hey, I got Mitchell & S jerseys on deck, embroidered, packaged up. They had tags, all that shit. People started hitting me up and it was on after that. People were like, oh, fuck. So I'm selling them for $100, but because he was selling them, so now my profit's at $90 per jersey. Killing. And I got my uncle involved. I got a bunch of people involved because I was moving them like crazy. Like I'm talking about, I was going over there 4Gs. I was getting 400 jerseys coming back and flipping them fast as fuck because jerseys were hot. It was Mitchell & S. This was like at the very beginning of the bootleg jersey thing. Like I got in early the fuck on the bootleg jerseys before swap meets were getting them, before a lot of people. And I know everybody out there seen the bootleg Mitchell & S jerseys before. Some people probably own them. Some people know exactly what I'm talking about. You probably got homies that wear them. And I got on early on, plugged up. So now I'm going over there. I'm flipping jerseys like crazy. I don't even give a fuck about printing shirts no more because the jersey game is crazy. So I'm, like I said, I'm at the gas station slanging jerseys out of the trunk. I'm everywhere, man. And before the swap meets got them, I was going to the indoor swap meets. I was at Gardena Indoor Swap Meet. I was at Delamo Swap Meet. I was at the Slauson Swap Meet. In the car, me and my uncle slanging jerseys like crazy, man. We had that shit locked down for a long ass time. And we weren't the only ones doing it. Like, I'm not trying to take credit that I was the only one slanging jerseys. But my hustle was fucking dope. It was like, I'm buying these shits for dumb cheap. Obviously, there's some risk involved because you're putting the money up front. But we're making the money back regardless. It didn't even matter. And what was crazy was they were like bagged up. They looked real as fuck. They were bagged up. They had tags. They already knew their jersey size by the number. Like, oh yeah, just give me a 54 or 52, whatever it was. People are still wearing them all big and baggy. We're coming up, man. And I felt like I was riding the wave now, right? I was on trend. I'm doing the shit. I'm making money. I couldn't turn down people. Like, people were hitting me up and was like, hey, I need a size 48. And I'd be like, oh, I only got a 52. They'd be like, fuck it, I'll take it. Like, that's how fucking crazy it got. So from there, all I'm telling people is like, I'm not doing t-shirts no more. I'm turning screen print work down because my garage is filling up with jerseys. My room, my house, everything's filling up with jerseys because I'm buying them by the hundreds. Like, I'm buying a ton of them. And the more I go out and sell them, the more people are hitting me up and like, hey, do you got this player? Do you got this? Do you got, different teams, different stuff? And I wasn't even playing towards the season what was in. Like, if it was basketball season, I wasn't just buying basketball jerseys. I was buying football still. I'm buying baseball. I'm buying everything only because it's just a popular thing. And if I would have played the marketing strategy a little bit better, I probably would have made way more money. But we did fucking really good. Like, we did good early on. So what was crazy was after that, I have all the jerseys going off. We're doing dumb good. Like, I'm talking about, like, we're making thousands on top of thousands on just cash. And this is by word of mouth, nothing crazy. It was just hitting my homeboy, Brandon. It was just hit him up and he'll bring the jerseys. And I would meet up with anybody, anywhere, with a trunk load of jerseys, you know what I mean? And people will come up like, oh shit, I got the homie coming through. He's going to be doing, he got the jerseys. So they would bring all their homies, pop the trunk, and they'll just ask me what players I got. Boom, and I'm serving everybody. And it just worked out. And on the days that I didn't have people hitting me up like that, I would just post up at the gas station, say, hey, anybody looking for jerseys? Obviously, I'd look at the person and see what they look like if they wore jerseys. Be like, hey, I got jerseys right now, $100, and easy. No cards, none of that shit. Like, I didn't have no business cards. It was just straight up, got my number, take this shit down, boom, boom, boom. And we're moving, man. So all of this is good, right? And I remember one of the last times that I picked up, and the reason why it was my last time was I go back, I buy, I think we bought like 400 jerseys, 4G's worth of jerseys, $4,000 worth. We go and it's moving, you know what I mean? With football jerseys, basketball jerseys, they're doing really good. And now we have 400 jerseys at the house, and we're going through the sizes. And then Jay-Z drops the fucking, I forget what song it was, where he talks about he don't wear jerseys no more because he's grown up, so he wears fucking those stripy button-up shirts. Whatever song that was fucked up the jersey game. And the jersey game was already like, bootleg jerseys are popular now. Swap meets got them. People aren't really fucking with the bootleg ones no more. They're looking for the real Michelin-esque shit. They rather pay the $300, $400 price tag, whatever it was. But when they started doing that, it fucked up business because Jay-Z talking about don't wear jerseys no more. You got to be dressed up and you got to look cool. Like, it was a different trend now. That seized up business for myself. Now people are like, oh shit, now I gotta buy button-up shirts because that's the popular thing. I'm gonna stop wearing jerseys, not gonna be buying jerseys no more. And that shifted business for myself because now I got 400 fucking jerseys that nobody wants to buy anymore because of one song and the influence that rapper had on the world at the time of just saying, nah, jerseys ain't it no more. Let's get away from that. Let's shift to something else. And obviously, it was those stripy button-up shirts. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys remember that shit. It was a crazy time for streetwear, hip-hop, fashion, all that shit. And for the people like myself, we really had no space to make money anymore because it was no t-shirts, none of that shit. It was button-up shirts. Like, I don't got a sewing machine. I'm not going to be sewing my own button-up shirts. So we were lost, man. 400 jerseys that we can't even sell at half price. Like, I couldn't even sell them for $50 because not a lot of people were buying them. And at this time, those weird bootleg jerseys started coming out with like players' stats embroidered on the back of them, which was really weird. I don't know why they did that. And they would put like an outrageous price tag on them, like $900, because it had the player's stats. And at that time, I was like, I'm not with that shit. That looks kind of corny to me. So I wasn't buying those. But a lot of the people that used to buy from me caught on. They already knew like it was a bootleg jersey. And but they were still buying it because nobody was checking tags back then, or to the people I was selling, they didn't have a problem wearing them. I still sold a few random football jerseys here and there, but it wasn't like it was. It wasn't booming anymore. And the wave died out, that trend fizzled out, and I got caught in the hype. And this happens all the time with anything. Whenever, like I say this all the time to people, and they're like, hey, where can I buy these types of shirts or these types of hats? And I tell people I really don't ride the trends. And this is why I don't ride trends, is because you go all in on a trend and you get burned once that trend fades out. You know what I mean? So for example, if you were doing like Schoolboy Q comes out, he's wearing bucket hats. Bucket hats are popular. You invest a shitload of money into bucket hats, and then people are like, nah, we're not doing bucket hats no more. We're doing dad hats. Now what are you going to do with all them bucket hats? You know what I mean? So for myself, when people ask about those like trendy cut shirts that got the weird zippers on them, or they're fitted and they got like that scooped bottom, all that shit, I stay away from it, because what if the trend falls out and, I went all in and I bought, 200, 300 t-shirts that are like that. Now I can't sell them because that trend's dead. Nobody's doing it no more. You know what I mean? So the reason I say all this, and the reason for this podcast, was just to say, watch out when you're following these trends, or if you're not riding that wave at the right time, that shit's gonna fuck you up, man. Because if you catch that wave a little too late and that shit just pretty much fades out, and you go all in on that trend because you see a lot of other people making money doing it, you're gonna lose. And that risk is just your money tied up into all that shit you can't sell no more. You know what I mean? So I learned early on how to fuck with these trends and how to stay away from them now. So if you ask me now it's just t-shirts and hats, shit that's just classic and basic, and it's not gonna go anywhere. Because once you jump on those trends, man, when the going's good, it's good. But when that trend starts to die and your shit's built around that trend, your whole business is gonna fall. You know what I mean? So if that's how you want to operate, by all means, go for it, man. But for myself, can't do it, man. Like, I was left with a shitload of champion jerseys that I couldn't move no more because of trends. And I was also stuck with a shitload of bootleg jerseys, embroidered ones, that I couldn't move because just jerseys died out. And that's just how pretty much fashion and all this shit works, is if you're not riding that wave at the right time, you're gonna fucking drown, man. That's just basically how it plays out. You know what I mean? So that was my experience on the shit. I'm gonna cut it right here, but I appreciate everybody for fucking with the podcast. Bullshitting with Brandoh is dope. A lot of people in the comments saying that they mess with this show, so I'm going to keep it going. I appreciate everybody. And for the people that complain about my talking, I can't really apologize. This is just the way I talk, man. So if you don't like the cussing and all that shit, you don't have to watch or listen. You know what I mean? And I apologize for this podcast not being too much t-shirt related, but hopefully you guys get something out of it. You know what I mean? Catch you guys on the next one. Yeah.